If you don't have it already, you'll get a copy of the squadron standards. Have you guys got that yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so as you go through the squadron standards, you'll see that there's kind of a standard way they want you to set up your upright control at first. Okay, and so I'm kind of going to show you. This would be a kind of a basic transition sorting type thing. All right. So I'm just going to go to the home page. So I'm on the home page, so I click that guy twice, and I want to go ahead and load in my nav aids. Reality is that the nav aids that the guy prior to you used will be already in there. All right, so normally they'll already be set up for you. However, in the simulator, you always have to enter your nav aids. So how do I do that? Well, from the home page, I'm going to hit UL2 right here. That submenu now brought me into my nav aids. Then I'm going to go ahead and load in my TAC in, which at Laughlin is channel 91. All right, and I can hit enter, and it took that. Then I'm gonna hit the VOR, which you guys are familiar with, and I can do it from the keyboard as well. It's a little easier, so I'm gonna do it this way. If you type in the full, like 114.40, it takes it, or if I don't wanna type in the 0, then I hit the enter down here, and now that VOR is loaded. Okay. You guys are familiar with the ILS, so you're gonna put the ILS in for the correct runway. All right, I hit the enter key, I'm doing it from the keyboard. There we go. Okay. This down here, I don't mess with for transition sorties. We'll talk about what that means later on, but that's the DME for your ILS. Okay, so we don't want to worry about that right now. Then I'm going to move on over to my altimeter. All right. And I have an altitude warning for MSL, and also put an altitude warning in for my radar altimeter. I forgot to mention we have a radar altimeter as well. So for transition sorties, I'm going to leave this as 0, and I'm going to set this at 10,000 feet, in accordance with squadron standards. And then I'll put in whatever the local altimeter is. So let's just say it's 3001. So I put that in there. Okay. I'm going to go over to my set page. And this up here, heading, is setting my heading bug, my captain's bars, all right? Depending on your departure, you're gonna put turns are runway 13. If you take a look at the Talon departure that you're gonna fly, then you're gonna go to 5 DME, turn left to heading 306. And most students will put 306 in there. All right, and it's hard to see in the desktop trainer, but that's the captain's bars right there, down here on your multifunction display. All right, I'm gonna put my course in, and the really cool thing is I can put a course for each one of my nav aids. I can put an IGI course, a VOR course, a TAC-IN course, an ILS course in there. All right, and so I want to use all those things. So I'm going to go ahead and select a VOR for my multifunction display, and I'm going to put, taking off runway 13, so I'll go ahead and put 132 in there. All right. Now I know my departure that I'm going to intercept the 132 at 5 DME, turn left to 306. I'm going to hold 306 until I intercept the 346 course. So I'll put that in my TAC-IN. And I can go over here to my ILS. You guys are familiar with that. So I can go ahead and put my ILS course in there. All right. And then, if I go back to VOR, notice the course is still there, the TAC-IN, the course is there. And so when I take off, I'll take off in VOR, I'll make that turn to 306, and I can HOTAS, the noseable steering button, when the gear's up, allows me to switch between my nav aids. So I'll just click on over to TAC-IN. If I come on to fly an ILS, I can click on over to ILS. All right, so that's how most guys will set that up. This has got my bug speeds. So we'll take off on landing data in great detail later on, but you're going to set bug speeds. All right, so normally we'll set our refusal speed. And normally that's going to be somewhere around 130 something knots. So I'll set that in there. Let's say it's 132 today. All right. I'm going to set this thing called single engine takeoff speed. So notice how I went over to UR3, and it changes now to yellow speed, and I'm set my CETOS in there, and I normally is 165 knots. All right, so what I did was I set my refusal speed, my green speed right here, and I set my refusal speed right there as part of my setup. Go ahead and set my bingo. So whatever your IP brief. So for most transition sorties, it's probably going to be 2,200 pounds. So at 2,200 pounds, we're going to get, Betty's going to say bingo fuel, and it's time to go home. All right, on that. Going to go over here to our VTR. And I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to tell it what I want it to film. And the squadron standards say they want you to film the front cockpit multifunction display. See how little star went there? And I get a green light, and now it's filming. And my voice is being recorded. All right. I'm going to go all the way over here to my bullseye. All right. And I could turn it on, and then I could put in a point in there. The squadron standards just changed over Christmas, and they used to have a number they wanted you to put in there, and now they say it's whatever your IP briefs. Okay, so you can put whatever you want. Let's say our bullseye is going to be Taylor. So we could type in the 5-letter identifier for that fix and put it in there. We can make our bullseye KDLF, we can make our bullseye any 3, 4, 5-letter identifier or number that the nav will put in there, center point in the area or whatever we want it to be. And what that does, so I put in Taylor, so I got hit, all right. And what that's telling me, if I look down here, can you guys see that? Is this in the way? That's telling me I am 47 miles and a bearing of 173 from my bullseye. Bullseye is very, it's a nice thing to have for, you'll use it a lot in a fighter, because what you'll do is, we got a room full of F-16 pilots, right? Okay, no, forget it. We're a room full of F-15 pilots, and we're gonna go and fight the bad guys, and we got AWACS out there and all that kind of stuff, and we're talking over some kind of secure line. And so we'll all agree what the bullseye is, and that way when we're airborne, we can all talk about where the bad guys are based off of bullseye. All right, so AWACS, other aircraft all say, okay, we got bandits, bullseye, 18015. So everybody knows where that is, and that's what bullseye is really used for. It's kind of a gimmick in the T-38. But anyway, here you go. I'll go over here to my IFF. I'm going to go ahead and put in my whatever my squawk was for my clearance. And in the T-38, you're going to call clearance delivery every single sortie. Formations, transitions, all that. So I put my squawk in there. All right. I'm going to go ahead and this drop down menu right here. I'm going to turn it on, which I just did. And unfortunately, the desktop trainer is not updated with ADSB. So when you do that in the sim and in the jet, you're going to get a bunch of zeros up here, and you're going to put your call sign in. So bully 55 in there, and that turns your ADSB on. And if you don't do that, then you're going to get some avionics lights and some things. So you definitely want to do that because it's a pain in the ass if you don't. All right. There you go, and that is the basic setup for the T-38. Actually, one thing that they just changed on the standards, I'm on this IFF page. Notice this FL right here. If I hit that, it stars it, and what it does now is it tells my traffic I have here, my TCAS. It tells me their altitude. And it also tells me my altitude down here as well, and that's a change to the squadron standards. So I guess they want you at flight level now on that. Okay. There you go. So that's kind of the basic setup right there. Lots more you can do with it, but that'll get you airborne in your transition sortie.